Namaste to all. Welcome to yet another inspiring video from One with God. This video is a vehicle for sharing with you the true message, the living faith of a disciple of what is possible. This story is about Richard Alpert, who was later known as Ramdas. Richard Alpert was born on April 6, 1931 in Boston in the United States. His father, a prominent lawyer, wanted him to go to a medical school, but he decided to study psychology instead. He received his PhD from Stanford University, where he also taught for a year. He considered himself an atheist, was a psychology professor and researcher in Harvard University in the early 1960s. He had all the luxuries one could dream of. After all, he was a professor at Harvard, and every time at a family gathering, every word spoken by him was welcomed with rapt attention.
And I wanted to collect things. My apartment was full of antiques. I had a Cessna airplane, a Triumph motorcycle, a Mercedes, silk jackets, the works. I felt myself being a model of what should be in our culture.
But only he knew that deep inside there was a turmoil, an unrest and complete dissatisfaction, because nothing was happening that mattered, that was real. Richard Alpert often thought that he had all the knowledge, but he lacked wisdom. Things began to change when Timothy Leary joined the Harvard faculty and the two became close friends. Timothy believed that mind-expanding psychedelic drugs could be used in psychological treatment, a theory that also intrigued Richard Alpert. Well, if you are guessing what are psychedelics, they are a group of chemicals which can expand consciousness. Included are chemicals such as LSD, marijuana, psilocybin, hashish and the likes. One of the dramatic characteristics of psychedelic experience is that we start to have this dissociative experience of where you all become is awareness. There's a point of awareness and that's all that is left. They started a research on therapeutic effects of psychedelics. Though not illegal at that time, their research was yet controversial. The word was out and their program was becoming popular. It was an innocent time and a wild ride. They tested their theory on students and were famously fired from Harvard in 1963. Everybody from his parents, colleagues, public saw it as a horrible thing. Richard thought inside, I must be really crazy now, because craziness is where everybody agrees about something except you. And yet, I felt saner than I'd ever felt. So I knew this was a new kind of craziness, or perhaps a new kind of saneness. That's when Richard realized that he needed to follow an entirely different path, and thus began the journey from Tehran to Afghanistan to Nepal with the bottle of LSD, thinking that when he had met holy men on the way, somebody could actually tell him what LSD is, and Richard would finally learn the missing clue. But nothing really was happening. Despair started to set in, and he was about to leave for Japan. But as we say, it's all destined. Richard then met this extraordinary guy. He was 6'7", had long blonde hair and a long blonde beard. He was an American, spoke Hindi fluently, and was called Bhagwan Das. He seemed to be what Richard was looking for, and so together they descended to the holy land of India. It was through Bhagwan Das that Richard met Neeb Karori Baba, also adoringly addressed as Maharajji by his disciples. Neeb Karori Baba is also said to be an avatar of Lord Hanuman. That meeting changed the course of Richard's life, for through Maharajji he came to perceive his life in spiritual terms. In him he found new depths of compassion, love, wisdom, humor, and power. Finally, Richard had met a man who understood his mind and heart. Maharajji became his guru or spiritual guide and taught him the power of unconditional love. Maharajji gave Richard Alpert a spiritual name, Ramdas, which means servant of God.
Stopped on the way about 100 miles from the temple, and we stopped, and I went outside from the house, and the stars, like stars, Van Gogh, those stars, and I thought of my mother. She was dead 6 months, and then I went inside, and we went on to the guru.
Ramdas first met Maharajji right here. Maharajji was sitting here with all these devotees were here, and he came here with Bhagwan Das. So it is a tradition here just to bow down before a saint. So Bhagwan Das bowed down and pranamed, but Ramdas was a bit hesitating.
He's laying on his belly on the ground, touching the feet of the guru. And I was Harvard professor. I wasn't going to go up and touch somebody's feet.
He had his hands in his pockets and just watching. And
so he said, come, this, sit down. Then he said, you were out under the stars thinking of your mother last night, which, I mean, a Harvard professor, you know, knowing, having been in cognitive research and stuff like that, nothing made me ready for that.
You were remembering your mother. She died of spleen.
And that was the breakthrough. That was the quieting my mind. Quieting my mind.
You know, it's like Jesus when he met the woman at the well and told her everything she'd ever done. That's what Maharajji would do. He would tell us everything that we've been doing in the last parts of our lives. You're thinking, wow, he knows everything.
When Maharajji was near me, I was bathed in love. And because he knew everything about me, that was like I was forgiven. I think prior to that, I had a lot of things in my past. I didn't want anybody to know. And I always felt that if they knew, they wouldn't love me. He knew, and he loved me.
And then he was transformed into Baba Ramdas before my very eyes. He just turned into this love, just started pouring. He just totally opened his heart and got into his heart.
It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Richard returned to Boston as Ramdas with a sense of new purpose, to teach a generation the lessons he learned in the East to live in the moment. Over the next 2 decades, he decided to dedicate his life serving others. He taught extensively across the world, wrote his classic bestseller, Be Here Now, with the blessings of Maharajji. It has sold over 2 million copies since its publication in 1971. Later, he wrote a number of books like Miracle of Love, Becoming Nobody, Still Here, Journey of Awakening, and many, many more. Ramdas also established a number of projects and foundations. In 1978, he co-founded Seva Foundation. Seva, which means service, works with the local communities in more than 20 countries across the world to develop locally run, culturally appropriate, self-sustaining programs to increase access to eye care. Ramdas also established Love, Serve, Remember Foundation as well as the Hanuman Foundation in 1974 upon the essential teachings of Neep Karori Baba to simply love and feed people and to love and serve everyone. Ramdas was also the pioneer to work with the Dying Project. Its core work is about healing our body, mind and our spirit. Healing that is inspired and motivated by the pre-consciousness of human life itself and by the fact that we all die, but we do not know when.
Ramdas was the pioneer. He's the person who really opened up that field for me personally.
The amount of cost in keeping people alive, forget quality of life now, just physically alive, the intensive care unit strategy was finally prohibitive. It was getting prohibitive. It was just eating up all the resources. Then comes the hospice movement, which says, oh, well, what we've missed is that the psychological part of dying is also important. And hospice is much cheaper than intensive care unit. Well, all it requires is that we accept the fact that death exists. And that's a big shift to accept death existing versus it's a failure and an enemy.
What Ramdas did was really inspire people to bring spirituality and existential questions into their awareness so that they could not only die well, but also live well.
I do a lot of grief work with people. And what I often am finding myself saying to people who have lost their child or their spouse after many years or something, you will grieve and grieve and grieve, and it'll come up for air and think it's all over and I'll be strong, and then you'll go back under and you'll go through depressions, and let it all run its course. Don't push it. Your mind will recite all the ways you've lost the person, that you'll never have the smell of their body, you'll, all these things. Milk it all, don't push it away. But there will come a time when your mind will quiet down a little bit. And in the quietness of that moment, the love that you've ever tasted with that person will be living and present. And then you'll realize that what the essence was that made you connect with this person has nothing to do with death. That love transcends death, basically. But you're going to have to find it out for yourself. But it's true.
In February 1997, at 65, Ramdas suffered a severe stroke and a massive cerebral hemorrhage. Doctors gave him only a 10% chance of survival. 100 hours of rehabilitation later, though still partially paralyzed, he was able to get around in a wheelchair. Ramdas interpreted this event as an act of fierce grace. On 22nd December 2019, at 88, Ramdas died peacefully at his home in Maui. When asked to sum up his life's message, he replied, "I help people as a way to work on myself, and I work on myself to help people. To me, that's what the emerging game is all about." Ramdas' journey has been a search for love and for finding a way to stay in the space of love. Ramdas survived great challenges to remain one of the most memorable spiritual leaders of this age. He taught the world that suffering is grace, that it is in the moment where you will see God, not in the past, not in the future. Past and future are thoughts, just thoughts. Everything is this very moment.
आपन तेज समारो आप तीनों लोग हंग थे बुद्ध साच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीर जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीर संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more such inspiring videos. And if you haven't yet watched the video on Mahavatar Babaji, then below is the link.